Well, welcome to a very out of sorts River Wye at Hereford. The river's bank high today and really coloured, but we'll still catch some fish. And today I'm going to fish a feeder approach, and I'm fishing a feeder approach to catch roach, dace, silverfish. It's going to be quite an active method. I'll be lots of reeling in and out, lots of bites hopefully, and I'll run you through the way I do it, and hopefully you can glean some information from it. It might help your own fishing. Last week I fished a festival on here. I did use this method in one day of the festival. I wasn't on a very good peg, but I did catch 20 pound on it, and understand a few of the other guys used it and did quite well. So it's a method to really think about now on this river. So let's get started. Okay, so I'm just whisking up a mix of ground bait for cage feeder today, and what I'm going for is census brown crumb mixed 2/3 brown crumb to 1/3 ABC crushed hemp. Now that's the brown crumb I like to use. The crushed hemp I use is ABCs, which you get a 1 kilo bag. As I say, I mix it roughly 2/3 brown crumb to 1/3 crushed hemp. The hemp also adds a little bit of stickiness, which will hold the particles better, so it'll hold the casters and the chopworms and the dead maggots I'm going to be putting through the feeder today. So what I'll do with this now is I'll whisk this up and leave it about an hour while I set my kit up, and then it will be absolutely perfect. I will have to probably add a little bit more water to that just before I start fishing, but then I'm going to be using casters and hemp and chopworms in the feeder, so that'll add moisture as well, so I'll be wary not to over wet it. While that ground bait's just settling after mixing it, I'll just run you through the tackle I'm going to be using today. It's all about small cage feeders. Now my favourite designs are these Nisa ones. Now the river's got a lot of water on it today, so I picked a few out of my box from 28 grams up to 60 grams. I'll be starting off with the 5-hole model in 44 gram. That should hold. If I need to go up to 60 I can. If I want to regulate the feed downwards I can use these smaller feeders. But what I'll be doing is fishing this and leaving the feeder in the water for no more than 60 seconds to begin with. So I'll be fishing quick casts. I'll be making 50 or 60 casts an hour, maybe more, building the peg up. The bites will come quite instant on this river, because fishing a small cage feeder like this is similar to plopping a small ball of ground bait in, and the fish come straight over ground bait in this river, so the bites will be instant. What I've got here are the rigs. Now the rigs, I make them up on these foam spools. So what I can then do is attach the rig I want straight onto my main line. In this case, we've got a small attachment there. We've got that fixed. Then we've got a twizzled loop. Then down to a 30 centimetre hook length to a size 12 to 017 main line. The fish are not going to be hook shy. They're not going to be line shy. The bites are going to be very, very quick, and this particular rig has quite a lot of self-hooking properties, so all I'll need to do is actually pick the rod up when I get a bite. I won't need to strike like a lunatic. When I get a bite, just pick the rod up. The fish will either be on or not. I'll probably have my hand on the rod anyway all the time, but the rig in more detail is fixed. The feeder will be attached there. So it's like similar to the helicopter rig. So at the moment it's paternostered, but what I can do is bring those stops right down to the knot, and it's then a bolt rig. But the good thing with this is it provides resistance above and below the feeder. It's the only feeder rig that does that. Most feeder rigs rely on the line coming down, hitting the stop, feel the fish feeling the weight of the feeder and bolting. With this, it'll instantly feel either from the line above or it will move the feeder, and that will then give you an instant bite. And most of those bites will actually be self-hooked. We've got the little twizzle here of 028 line. Now that's there to provide a nice standoff, but also a little bit of protection against the lead there, and the lead rubs against there, so that won't break. And it also creates a bit more stiffness in the rig. It actually adds to the bolt effect. And now I attach the hook length, you'll see here I've tied in a crow's foot at the bottom of that thick line, and I'll just attach that loop to loop over there, so just like you would on a pole connector, on a Dacron pole connector. That's how I attach the hook length to this. So you've got crow's foot there, and again my loop, so it's a little bit different. It's not loop to loop. I do find that does reduce some line spin doing it that way. Right, I'm kicking the session off with maggot hook bait. 3 and 4 maggots on the hook. Fish are not going to be shy today, and it's a big hook, size 12. I can vary that around. If I start missing bites, I can put 1 maggot on, 2 maggot. I can actually find what I eat the bites best on. But I did explain that the rig itself is self-hooking, so I'm not going to be like striking at these bites. I'll be casting in every, say, 60 seconds. I'll be counting to 60. Cast out, count to 60, reel in, back out, and I'll do that for the first hour, and I'll judge things from there. I think as I build the swim, you'll decide whether whether you need to leave it in longer to get bites, or you could even be putting it in every 30 seconds. As I say, it's going to be quite a fast and furious method today. So I'm just starting off with a 44 gram feeder, which I think will hold. If it doesn't, I can always step up to a 60 gram. And I'm only going to be fishing close in. It's down here, we've got platforms that we normally sit on. I'll be just lowering the feeder in just past the platform. Hopefully I don't hook that platform when I start playing fish, shouldn't do. And the fish are going to be, as I say, just in front of the platform, just slightly down, tight to where the bank would be on a low river. So I'm just on the river bed. I'm not fishing in the grass, I'm just lowering out, so I'm just in the river bed. With this extra water on today, there's over 3 metres on the river, and that's actually probably 18 foot deep there. As I say, I'll do that now. I'll actually count to 60 in my mind, strike the bait out really. I've actually already mixed plenty of hempen casters into the ground bait, so I'm not having to plug the feeder. I can just push the ground bait straight into the feeder. Much quicker that way. With this we need to be quite efficient. And when I cast in, I've just got a marker on the other bank. There's actually a shadow on the water. So at the moment it's just the corner of the boathouse. So I'm dropping it probably a rod and a half length out from where I'm sat, which is just into the river bed. And there, as I can see the shadow, so I don't need to clip up. I can keep dropping that into that place. It'll be very, very accurate. There are quite a lot of bleak top in here. I mean, if it were a match, I'd probably be looking at these bleak. But they aren't always about, and as the weather gets colder, the bleak will disappear. So these sort of methods in these conditions will take over from bleak fishing. Like I just had a little indication there. Yeah, one of the maggots has been damaged, so that's a good sign. That's only the second cast and I've had a bite. Tip there. Oh, when you fill the feeder, just hold the hook length in your hand, keep it there, away from the box and your platform and anything else that the hook might catch onto. You want to be quick and efficient, so hold that hook length, fill the feeder with one hand. That's immensely deep at the moment. I'm not fishing a bow at all in that, I'm fishing it direct to the feeder. Now if I was fishing a big fish I'd put more of a bow in, but these silvers are going to be pulling at the maggot. They'll be self-hooked, most of them, so I want a tight line straight to it. I don't need to be worrying about putting the bow in, I'm fishing close to the bank. A 12-foot rod today, and in there I've got a 3-ounce tip. It's a short tip. This is a Browning 80 gram class rod, so it's not a really big powerful rod, but it has got, you know, what I need to deal with fish up to a couple of pound. And as I say, the tip's 3 ounce. The reason I picked that strong tip is, again, it adds to the self-hooking properties of the rig. If you've got a soft tip, you can pull at the tip and they might not be hooking themselves against the tip, but having such a thick carbon tip in there allows that, as I say, to have more of a spring effect. No bite that chuck. Groundbait is a feeder quite hard. Did what I said I wouldn't do, just had a bite there, indication. Sometimes you can't stop yourself from striking. Try not to strike, just pick the rod up. That's good, I've had 2 small indications. Starting on probably a 40 centimetre tail with a little standoff on the rig with the twizzle line. But what I will do, if I was to be missing bites, I can reduce that down to 20 centimetres.
Careful, guys.
Here we are. First fish. I think it's a little roach or a dace. Long way up in that deep water. There we are. Probably be swinging these in later. First one, I thought I'll net it clean the first fish. There we've got a nice plump roach, about 8 to 10 ounces. That was just 3 maggots. You can vary the colour of upbait if you want. I'm just using bronze maggots today. So I've been fishing 10 minutes and I've had probably half a dozen bites already, 3 roach in the net. So it's certainly a lot of fish in the venue at the moment, but how I'm fishing this could work on a river near you, somewhere where less prolific, but the accuracy and the regular casting, putting bait into the same place, that's what really brings the fish in. Actually had to move further back up the bank with the river coming up. Just had to move further back. It's probably come up nearly a foot now while I've been here. So there's quite a bit of rain last night. There's not many rivers you'd get bites like this in conditions like this, other than barbel. Barbel feed in these conditions, but roach and dace usually quite difficult to come by in these conditions, but today's been, you know, reliable. The Y's ever reliable. You can always catch fish on it, even in the worst conditions. This with a 7, you'd catch nothing else but other than possibly a barbel or a bream. Still using the same marker that I started on, just dropping it off the shadow of the corner of the rowing club building. There's a shadow in the water just which marries up with the corner of that building over there. And so the bites are just a little tremble, but they're generally all self-hooked in this short tail. Another beautiful roach. Although the river's come up, I've still managed to carry on holding nicely with the 44 gram. So it does cut back slightly. The river here cuts back into a nice slack. That there. Superb roach, 10-12 ounces. So today I've used a 6 pound main line with an 80 gram 12 foot browning rod, which is a black viper 12 foot. That's got a 3 ounce tip in it, which has been handy because it's helped the self-hooking properties, having that nice stiff tip. And the rig, you'll see, as I say, I carry the rigs on spools, and this one it's on a couple of foot of 12 pound line, and I've got my float stop swivel all on there ready to go. Really handy to carry a few of those on the spools, because if you do snag up, you've got another rig there and it's handy, ready to go. So again, you can be back fishing again in a matter of a minute, rather than having to fiddle about putting the float stops on and all the rest of it, all ready to go. Being efficient on this river is key to success. It's quite often, although the weights are big, the margins of winning and losing can be quite small. So all them little things through the day, time saved and efficiency, will help you put more fish in the net. Good now this afternoon. I'm starting to connect with all the bites now, which is great. Not quite surprising how heavy these roach are. That's probably 10 ounces. With the weight of the feeder, it's always better to use your landing net rather than the pull out and then getting a mess, and just use a short landing net handle. No good losing fish that you don't have to lose by attempting to lift them out when you don't have to. Find it quite fun fishing a rising river. You just never quite know what's going to happen. Sometimes the fishing's great, other times it's really poor, but to be fair, the last few years I'm seeing a trend towards the rivers fishing quite well when they've got rainwater in them and rising. It seems to be the fish are quite happy in those conditions to feed. Certainly today there's nothing stopping these fish feeding. Okay, they're not the ideal conditions, you couldn't really float fish this peg, but this proves the fish are still there to be caught. Dice there. Okay, well, it's not been perfect conditions today, but I have had a really nice day's fishing. I've had a lot of roach, quite a few big days. Not had a massive weight, probably 25-30 poundish, but that would actually be quite good, I think, in today's conditions. Certainly if bleak didn't feed, I think that would be quite competitive on a river that's over 3 metres now. So yeah, I'm fairly happy with how it's gone. That's made quite a few changes today to keep catching. One of the most important being moving from that cage to a solid feeder. That's got me loads of bites. Changing up baits regularly from wormheads to maggots, but just keep ringing the changes, altering the hook lengths. Whenever I've made a change, I've had a little flurry of bites. But in the end, it's been quite a nice day. The sun's come out and the fishing's been pretty good.